Tonight's Emmerdale doesn't just bring drama, it delivers one of those quiet conversations that can change everything, as Moira makes a choice that could save Cain, but cost her the farm. Tonight's episode of Emmerdale pushes the emotions to an intense level, as everything happening at Butler's farm is no longer simply about land or conflict, but about a heartbreaking choice between family and the very thing Moira has tried to protect at all costs. What makes this episode so striking is the pressure closing in on everyone at once, with each character revealing their true nature in the middle of the crisis. On Joe's side, this feels like the moment the character starts becoming far too confident that he holds all the power. Joe is openly smug when he sees Cain looking shaken, convinced that if he keeps applying pressure, it will only be a matter of time before Moira is forced to give up Butler's farm. But the important point is that Joe seems to be treating everything like a game of chess, while everyone else is living through real pain. That is exactly why his coldness becomes harder for Kim to accept than ever. Kim may be pragmatic, but she still has limits, and Joe ignoring her earlier warning shows that he is pushing things too far. Even Lydia can no longer stay silent, proving that Joe's behavior has become cruel enough to provoke a reaction from people who would normally stay patient. Meanwhile, Cain is on a completely different emotional path. After Moira's support, he decides to tell his family the truth about his prostate cancer diagnosis. This is not the kind of dramatic scene driven by shouting or explosive conflict, but one that carries weight because Cain has to face the truth himself and speak it aloud to the people closest to him. It feels completely true to Cain's character. He is someone who is used to holding everything in and carrying pain alone. So admitting that he is becoming vulnerable is actually far harder than standing up to someone like Joe. Sarah's presence in that moment also adds warmth to the scene, because it shows Cain is not entirely alone, even though he still has to be the one to begin the conversation. The most painful part of this episode is undoubtedly Moira's decision. The fact that she personally calls Kim to the prison already shows that Moira no longer wants to drag out this standoff. When Moira says she is willing to sell her share of the farm, it is not simply a financial decision. It is almost an act of sacrifice. Moira is not exactly giving up, but accepting the loss of something she loves so that Cain has a chance to focus on treatment. It is the kind of choice that hurts deeply because it comes from love, but is also filled with helplessness. She understands that if she keeps fighting to hold on to Butler's farm at any cost, the price Cain may have to pay could be far greater. Kim's suspicious reaction in this scene also makes perfect sense. Someone like Kim would never easily believe that Moira had suddenly changed her mind unless there were a major reason behind it. That is what makes this meeting so tense. Moira wants to protect Cain, but the more she hides, the more Kim senses that something is wrong. If Moira is forced to reveal Cain's condition, then this conversation will no longer be just a negotiation. It will become the moment Kim understands the true cost behind everything that has happened. What is even more significant, though, is that if Cain finds out Moira made such a huge decision without speaking to him first, he may feel both heartbroken and angry. Because Cain has never been the kind of man who wants others to sacrifice themselves for him, especially at a time when he is trying to hold on to the last pieces of control he has left. The rest of the episode continues to underline the ripple effect of the truth as more members of the Dingle family begin to learn what is happening. Cain, not wanting to repeat this conversation again and again, feels very real, because sometimes the most exhausting part is not saying it once, but having to watch that pain appear on the face of every loved one. The scenes where Cain tells Kyle and Isaac will very likely be among the heaviest emotional moments of the episode, because when a father has to explain his illness to his children, almost every defense falls away. This is where viewers no longer see the familiar, hard exterior of Cain, but a man trying to do the right thing in the worst possible circumstances. At the same time, the tension between Sarah and Jacob also has a chance to be resolved. Once Jacob understands the reason behind Sarah's silence and her confusing behavior, the distance between them closes very quickly. This detail may seem smaller compared to Cain and Moira's storyline, But it is still necessary because it shows that truth, however painful, is sometimes the only way to heal a relationship. Sarah was clearly carrying a lot of pressure before, and only when Jacob finally sees the full picture can their relationship begin to move back in the right direction. Looking ahead, Joe may soon realize that his plan is no longer running as smoothly as he imagined, because once too many people know the truth about Cain, the situation will no longer be so easy to manipulate. Kim may also begin to see Moira differently after their prison meeting, but that does not mean everything will suddenly become easier. On the contrary, the decision to sell the farm could easily open up a new conflict between Moira and Cain, because even if it comes from love, it is still far too big a decision for Cain to accept without a fight.